All right, we are going live. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Natalie Phillips.
Hi, everyone. It's Regeanie Corona.
Good to see you on this Memorial Day weekend. And we are kind of catching you guys in the lunch hour. So if you are here, jump on in. And we're so glad that you're here with us. And Reg, what are you doing today for Memorial Day?
Oh, my gosh. First of all, I slept in, which usually I don't do. So I had a chance to sleep in a little bit, and we're just hanging out. The kids are with their dad, and my older son is with his girlfriend. So it's just us, and we're gonna grill some steaks and just hang out and enjoy the day. What about you guys? What are you doing?
Awesome. Well, I slept in too and had a late breakfast. And then I am actually going to go golfing with my son. So that's kind of why I am not doing my show later on today. But I'm glad that we're doing the show right now because the only tea time we could get is a little bit later on in the evening. So,
oh, that is so cool. I keep saying that I need to learn how to golf. And so one day maybe I will.
I didn't say I knew how to golf. I just said I'm going golfing.
Did you watch the golf charity yesterday? It was like the only.
No, I saw that. No, actually, yesterday we had a pretty relaxing day. I was catching up on all the Last Dance, so I had a few episodes to catch up. So I was literally sprawled out on the couch with my son next to me and my husband on the other couch, and we were catching up on the Last Dance. And so they watch it. That's the third time they've watched it through, and I still have one more episode to finish off, but I wanted to finish the episodes off for that.
Oh, that's cool.
Kind of
before we go any further, I want to say happy Memorial Day. Just recognizing the veterans. Memorial Day is a time to recognize veterans, but it's especially a time to recognize veterans that have lost their lives. And my dad was a veteran, and he's no longer with us. And so on Memorial Day, I always think about him. He didn't lose his life during combat, but he did serve. And so I always just like to take a moment.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for his service. And yes, we hope everybody's going to stay safe and healthy today, but we also want to remember and honor the people who have sacrificed for us, on this Memorial Day for our country. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so today we're going to just chat real quick about our book writing process. I know that there are many people that might be out there thinking of writing a book, thinking, I'm not really too sure, if I should do it. I think between Reg and I, we totally believe that everybody has a story to share, whatever the story is. I know that Reg also has a couple of other books in progress, and I am thinking about doing another one. So it's like, we just want to share our stories so that way people can get out there and think about how doable it is. And, for us, it was a little bit different because we had the accountability, but, we have some questions for each other, and maybe we'll both answer it as well, to just talk about our journey a little bit more. So, Reg, I'm going to start with my question first.
Okay.
Because, a lot of people ask us questions about writing a book. And so I thought this would be kind of a fun question, but how did you find time to write in your busy schedule? So you go ahead and answer that first, because both of us are really busy.
We are. I think you're busier than I am. The pandemic slowed you down. It was hard. I'm not going to say that it wasn't. It was really hard. There were times where we had agreed we were going to get something done by a certain time. And then we were going to check in on a Friday. Usually our check-in days are Fridays, or definitely the weekend, a day during the weekend. And I would be like, okay, I didn't do my part. I didn't get it done. What am I going to say to Natalie? And it's like, you know what? I'm going to say life happens and things are going on, and I just couldn't get to it. But I am working on it, and just, I had to be transparent about it. But it was challenging. But one of the things that I would do was I would think of things that I wanted to say, and I'd put them on my phone, or record them and then just put them somewhere like on a parking lot list so that I could go back to them. And I wouldn't forget them. Otherwise, I'd forget them, with so many things going on. You and I experience this, me more than you. I forget things. And it's okay. It's okay to forget them. But I just thought, let me write them down so I don't forget the things that I really want to say in the book. So that was one of the tricks that I used to deal with that. But other than that, I'd just be honest. You have to carve out time to do it. If you don't carve out time and be intentional about it, you'll never get to it. It'll keep going down on the priority list.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. Both of us are very, very busy with our businesses, nonprofits that we both, run and help out with, kids.
Yeah, family.
Everything. Yeah. So it is very hard to find that time, but you do have to carve time out. I do like what you said about like maybe even I use notes a lot on my phone, but maybe even pulling out your phone and writing those notes down when you have a thought, when you're out at Costco or when you're out waiting for your kid at a practice or picking them up or something like that. Yeah. So you always have your phone with you if writing doesn't work. I know you've used maybe, was it rev.com or something that you use to record as well. That's another possibility that you can use, right?
Yeah, you can use, you can record and then you can either go to rev.com or Temi, TEMI.com and get it transcribed and then you can edit from there. So that worked well too. And I do that a lot.
Yeah. And, I will add to this, with our busy schedules, I think that Reg is right. You just have to find time to sit down and carve out time. And for me, sometimes it would be late at night. Sometimes it would be on the weekend where I would just sit on my bed, something comfortable, and like, I would be there for hours, but the kids knew, the family knew, like not to come bother me because I had to be in like my zone. But you don't have to be like that. If an idea comes up, we had our chapters sort of outlined out. And so if an idea comes up about a certain topic, it was easy to just make a little note and then go back and do that. But yeah, the busy schedules is an issue, but having an accountability weekly or every 2-week type of call, whether we got something done or not, is something that, we had grace for each other because we were still living it out. We knew that when we wrote this book about action, that it was really going to look at the whole year of what we did when we lived out our word of action. So we gave ourselves some time to say, hey, we want to finish that year so that we can prove that this system works with the friendship, with the accountability, and, having that time in our busy schedules. So carve out the time. Find some different tools on your phone that you can use when you're having an idea so you don't lose that idea. Those are really, really great options for people who are thinking about writing books.
Yeah, they are. They are. Okay, Is it my turn to ask a question?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so what was your biggest fear in writing a book? And did that fear go away or did it change when we made the decision to write a book together?
So for me, the biggest fear, I think, was the imposter syndrome and thinking that I had something to teach other people. I think that's the biggest one because I kept thinking, yeah, but everybody is so good. And when you look at, I think it's such a distant goal that you're like, okay, the book is going to be published and you have this cover and everything like that. But until I get there, I don't even know if I have enough to teach to fit into a book. Like I could probably write a pamphlet, maybe, but that's the imposter syndrome. I deal with that all the time, not just in writing a book. But I think for me, that was the biggest fear, that I did not have anything to teach other people. And I know that you've kind of changed my thinking about that in that process, but laying it out chapter by chapter and thinking about the stories that you and I walked through in this process of the last year and a half showed that I did have something to teach because there was something that we did that actually worked. So I think for me, that's what helped me overcome my fear, is to share our personal stories.
Yeah, that's really interesting because so many people have imposter syndrome. I go through that at times. so many other professionals and entrepreneurs, when you really talk to them on a personal level, you find that they go through that. And it's, sometimes it's seasonal. Maybe they go through it. They're going through a shift in their career, or they're rebranding themselves, or, but at some point or another, you experience it, and it can be challenging. So I think that's a really important one, and it can be a barrier. Mm-hmm. I think my greatest fear in writing the book was, am I going to be able to make the time? So this ties back to what we were talking about before. As long as it was just me, I could make excuses for myself, and I would accept those excuses. But when I had a co-author, a partner in this, I couldn't do that any longer. So all of a sudden, I felt like I was put on the hot seat, and I had to live up to the commitment. And there were times where I felt a little bit of fear, where I was like, oh man, am I going to be able to do this? And it was like, of course I can do this. I can do it. I can do it by myself, but I can do it even more with someone else, because I have that accountability, and because I can't make those excuses in the same way. So that was my fear and my growth in the same space, which was
interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah. So those of you who are joining, I know that we've got some people popping in and out. Stop by, say hi, catch this on the replay. If you have questions for Reg and I in this book writing process, please put your questions in the comments, and we'll come back. If it doesn't come on while we are live, then by all means, we'll go back and we will check it out. And look who's here. We have somebody special here.
My hubby is here.
Yeah, good to see you, Daniel. All right. So, again, say hi, pop on in, ask us a question. What we're doing is we are just sharing our process, but we're also sharing it because we want other people to do it as well. So, pop on in here, ask us a question, put it in the comments later if you come and watch this on the replay. But, we're really learning actually, I'm still learning about Reg through these questions too. So it's kind of fun to go through these questions.
What would be interesting is for us to do maybe on our show, where we have our husbands, if they're willing, to talk about what they kind of saw and observed that we were going through.
Oh, that's
because
a good one.
They were a part of the process as well, right? Yeah. They've had to deal with us closing ourselves off and doing these accountability sessions. And like, we are really, it's the whole family in. So it's not just our husbands, our kids too.
Yeah, I like that topic. Hopefully on our show. So as you know, we're going to take a pause here and just talk about our show. It is coming out on June 7th. We have a big, fun friend and speaker that is going to help us kick off our show on June 7th. But starting on June 7th, Reg and I are going to go weekly on a show just to kind of talk through the different chapters. And we're going to have a monthly topic based on one of our chapters. And then we're going to have some different guests, as well as the topics that we're going to cover throughout the month. So the whole month is going to be based on one chapter. So it's almost going to be like an introduction to our book, but then also kind of walking you through our book and some topics. And we would love for you to come join us and also be able to be engaged in the conversation. And that's why we use technology, not to talk at you, but to be able to connect and have you be a part of our lives as well. So that's going to be our show starting on June 7th, 3:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's because Reg is in California and I'm in Colorado. So we're going to put those time zones in. And it's going to be every Sunday. So we're super excited to have a new show that we're going to talk about our book and cover some different topics and have some really fun speakers that have actually taken action as well. All right. So
yeah. And while we're talking about it, don't want to miss the opportunity to let you know that first month and those first few episodes will be about fear. And, there are so many things that are deeply rooted in fear that we don't get done. We don't take action on. And we're meant to take action. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, fear is a big topic. I think that's one of the ones that Reg and I both believe time and fear is one of the big things that we wanted to kind of talk about and touch upon. So fear, we're going to kick off with fear actually, and just knock it out of the park.
Yes.
All right. So, okay. So my question to you is, how did it work and mesh just writing something with somebody else? I think a lot of people who are thinking about writing a book, maybe they're thinking about writing about what they can teach or what they have, or maybe their autobiography or their own story. But what about, how did it work with us and just writing from two different points of views? How did you think that all went down?
So it was really interesting because our initial approach to it was a little bit different. So we both knew, we had outlined everything and we knew the topics that we wanted to talk about. And then we started writing. And as we were writing, I started by nature. It's one of my gifts. And it's something that I gravitate toward. It's storytelling. So as we started writing, I started doing storytelling. And then, in addition to the sort of factual information, and when I shared that with you, it was kind of like you were doing storytelling. You were telling bits of our stories together. And then I was bringing in my stories. And so I had to kind of adjust to that and realize, well, wait a minute, that's right. I'm co-authoring a book. So I've got to talk about me as a person and my stories, but how that relates back to us as a partnership and our stories together. So it was this little bit of a transition, and I had to pivot. And honestly, if I'm being totally transparent, that's because for so long I've done so many things by myself, which is not always a good thing, right? But it's just my habit to go out and start doing things. And I've always done them independently. And always felt like I needed to do them independently. And I'm learning in this stage of my entrepreneurial experience that you have to lean on others, and you can't be afraid to lean on others and lean in to those relationships that are supportive of you growing as a business person, as a person in general. So that was probably the most interesting thing for me about co-authoring a book.
Yeah. And so for people who are tuning into, it's really fun because our book is not just about stories, but our book is also about, we have action items in there. We have some really great material in there that teaches you about something like fear, and how to overcome fear and the steps to take action about fear. And so within that content as well, then we weave in our stories of things that Reg may have gone through on her own, things that I may have gone through on my own, and then some things that we've talked about together to help us get over that, let's say, fear, of not believing in ourselves, or maybe fear of just stepping out and actually getting something done. Mm-hmm. So, it's going to be a really fun book because we have stories weaved into some of the great content that hopefully you will learn about. We've got teaching content, and then we have challenges as well. Mm-hmm. So I think that this co-writing, I totally get what you say about, I've done things by myself for a long time because I feel like I get it done faster. And I don't know if I'm really the best at delegating. Maybe in my other office in audiology, it's different. But when I'm doing something, I just feel like, you know what, I'm just going to get it done because I know how I want it, and I'm going to get it done faster. And so I rely on myself, and I don't really allow people to help me too much. But I think the special thing also about co-writing is you have to have this special friendship and to have this connection with each other so that it was easy to write and it was easy to weave in the stories here and there. But having a partnership is super important. like what you said, a good partnership that's supportive
Mhm.
and encouraging, and something that we both build upon. So I think that's huge, whether it's a partnership in a business, whether it is co-writing in a book together. It's funny. Here's what Daniel says. So I wanted to put it up here. He says, "Hi, young ladies. This is awesome. I've watched this friendship grow into a best friendship forever relationship. You both are awesome and work extremely well together. I'm proud of this chapter in your lives where you partnered together to co-author a book. Yay!" And he said, "You're BFFs." And I remember on your live yesterday, it was funny. I went back and watched it. You said that it was sort of a marriage, and it is. It's something that it's a yes, the bracelets. I know, and it's something that you have to have this special partnership in order to build and grow to something special.
Yeah.
So again, I think with what we were doing with partnering together just as accountability partners, as friends, but then also moving forward to writing this book together, to me, it really meshed fine for me. It was
Mhm.
fine. I think that we were able to get it to be where it's going to be understandable. And I'm excited for people to give us, feedback after they read it of, how it worked. And you'll probably be able to see the different types of stories and the different perspectives that we both have. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think also you mentioned it earlier that you're still learning things about me and I'm still learning things about you. And as we talk about different things related to the book, we are learning more, but I also feel like we're growing so much more. And I learned so much about myself and some of the things that I learned weren't necessarily great things, but they were things that I had to acknowledge and say, oh, wait a minute. Okay, that is an area that I still need work on. And so it brought up areas of self-awareness for me. Um, but I also think that what you said is really important, the partnership, having the right partner.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times people go into partnerships and things, and it's not necessarily the right partnership. And you don't always know that going into it. But I think for us, we had time to develop our relationship and then sort of go through some of this accountability partnership stuff and then decide, hey, you know what? Let's write a book about this because there are so many other people that could benefit from something like this.
Mhm.
And our whole goal is to help people move forward in their dreams and their goals, right? That was what we were able to do through this process. We were doing that on our own, but I think we exponentially increased that because now we're feeding off of each other's ideas and we're bringing so much more to the table. And so the vision keeps getting bigger and bigger. And that to me is amazing. And so now I shift from looking at doing things alone and looking at doing things with you and pouring into that. And that's exciting for me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. We've got a couple more people here that are coming on. Can't
Oh,
wait to
hi,
read your
Araceli.
book. And yes, Daniel totally agrees that you must have the right partnership,
Yeah.
and you both have it together. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Very, very lucky. All right. So what's your do you have another question for us here?
I do. Oh, yeah,
Okay.
I do. So what are the maybe top two things that you think you've learned through this process, whether it's about you or whether it's about the book writing process, whatever it is, what do you think are the top two kind of takeaways for you?
Mhm. I think number one would be, you have to take action. I know that we keep saying that, but
Yeah,
it's so easy to say and then you don't do it.
don't do it. Yeah.
So, the thing that I'm so passionate about is that we did commit to take this action. And in order to write this book, it did take that commitment of accountability, friendship, showing up for each other, but actually sitting down and physically writing, like you have to write. And I know that people, that might be the scariest thing for people is the writing part. But you have something to say. Everybody, I truly believe that people have something to say, and it's really important that in this life that we are alive, that we share that, whether
Yeah.
it's something that we've learned and that we just want to pass on, and after it's been filtered through our life and how we think about things, or whether it's something that you sit on certain days and you have these thoughts and they're thoughts to yourself, but I still feel like those thoughts that you are thinking to yourself could still be pushed out there, only for the reason because I do believe that it can help somebody else. So this
Yes.
whole that's the one thing that I think that I've learned, and that's my takeaway, is that in order to take action, you literally have to take action. I know that sounds silly, but it's true. It's true. Like, you can't just think about it, but you have to actually do it. And then I think the second thing I was going to say was that try to find an accountability partner. I think that's the only way that I was going to get off my behind to actually do it. I have tons of ideas. I second guess everything. You're not too sure whether to push it out there or not. But if I didn't have someone like you with me along the way, in front of me, pulling me along on the side of me, saying, let's do this together, and pushing me behind when I didn't have things done, I wouldn't have got it done. So those are my two takeaways: is you do have to physically take the action. And then also, for me, the accountability was huge. Like, it was incomparable, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like, I can honestly say that I don't think I would have gotten this done without you by my side. So that's my two takeaways. What about you?
For me, one of mine is related to what you just said, but I have a thought that I don't want to lose really quickly, and it's about book writing or anything. If you have a goal that you want to accomplish, what Natalie is saying about an accountability partner is so critical. Having an accountability partner is really, really important. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to co-author a book. That was something we chose to do in the process. But it's the act of having someone who's going to hold you accountable to what you say you're going to do, and who wants what you want just as badly for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yes, I love that. We talked about this in our last call too. Yeah, I love that you
like
brought that
you
up.
want the goal, but the person wants the goal for you. They're your cheerleader. They want you to reach that goal or that dream as well, and they're there to help you. So I wanted to make sure, that people understand it's not, about co-authoring a book or partnering on other things. That's how our partnership has evolved. But even if you're writing on your own, even if you're developing a business on your own, or get an accountability partner, even if it's losing weight and staying healthy, someone to help keep you accountable to what you say you're going to do. Okay, so what did I learn, or what are my takeaways? I have so many takeaways, but my top two are, one is related to what you said, but I'm going to frame it as trust. I realize that I have had trust issues probably most of my adult life. And it is why I do a lot of things on my own, because I feel like, hi, Regina. I feel like I can trust me, and I can trust what I'm going to do. Even if I fail in what I'm going to do, I can trust that. But I have learned to be able to open up and put trust in another person. And part of that is deeply rooted in being hurt by other people in my past, and opening up and going through that hurt. And I think over the years, there was a part of me that subconsciously shut down and said, I'm not going to depend on anyone else. I'm going to depend on me, because I know that I'm not going to hurt myself. I might fail or fall along the way, but I'm not going to let myself down. And this process has helped to sort of transform me in that area again, and help me to realize that, we are built to have relationships, and relationships do require you to have trust. And you trust, and there may be times where that trust is broken, but you can't shut yourself down to trust.
Yep.
Even after you've been hurt, even after you've been broken. So that's more on a personal level, but it still plays into the things that we do or don't do, right? Or don't take action on. Our fears are not just sort of these obvious ones. There are also things like opening up and trusting people. So that was a really big one for me, actually.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing too, I just want to say, because trust is hard to get over if you've been burned before. Like, people just don't want to put themselves out there. So I totally get that. So that's a huge obstacle that you were able, and I'm glad you were able to overcome, because it was important in order for us to get this out. And now you can talk about it and share the process of what you went through. So I love that.
Yeah. And I know there are a lot of people out there that experience those feelings, that go through that. And, for us, so it's funny because typically Natalie's like, we talk about what our weaknesses are and what our strengths are and how we complement one another. And one of the things I absolutely love about Natalie, she reminds me of my husband in that she's like, okay, we've got to get this done, this done, this done. Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? She's sending me text messages, and I love that because she understands that that's a weakness that I have. I may forget, I get distracted, there's a lot going on, and I don't take it personally. I just take it like she knows we've got things to get done, and she's reminding me because she knows what my weaknesses are. And by the same token, I talk to her about things like, okay, Nat, we're going to be doing this now. Here's our strategy. We've got to make sure we tackle this, and we can't forget this item. And oh, by the way, as we're talking about book sales and revenue, we've got to make sure we have this infrastructure in place. And so that's the left brain part of who I am. I always come to the table with strategy and infrastructure and processes, and how are we going to support that? And she knows that I'm going to do that. And even in talking about business elements of our partnership, I'm going to talk about those things because they're important. And we can't be afraid to talk about those things because, people do fall by the wayside, and they start out great and then they end up like divorce and they're fighting over things because they weren't open enough to really sit down and talk about those important conversations that you need to have up front. And I'm not afraid to have those conversations. And Natalie's not afraid to have those conversations. And we do them with ease and grace and love for one another. And I think that's part of partnership as well. And people have to recognize that up front. You do have to guard. You have to guard your partnership. And in that, you also have to guard your interests as individuals coming in and respect each other in that way. But okay, that was a little bit of an aside. So the second thing that I had learned through this process is you have to be okay with giving up what you are birthing for someone else to look at and critique and give you ideas about, and it may not be exactly what you thought initially, or it may sound completely different than what you thought. And let me explain just a little bit. So I experienced that with Natalie because as I write things or do things, then I have to give them to her to review and give her feedback. So she's the first person. The other person is Elizabeth Lyons, our amazing editor. I haven't seen the edits to our book yet. I'm trying to stay away from them. Natalie's working on the first part of the edits. But I do know, I glanced over them, and Elizabeth has a lot of comments in there, and I welcome them. And in the very beginning, Natalie and I talked about this, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, we're getting ready to turn it over to Elizabeth." And I said, "You know what? We are. Let it go."
Mhm.
Like the movie Frozen, let it go. It's like you have to let it go and just trust that that person that is a professional in this area, we've hired her to help us put out an amazing book that's going to be valuable to everyone that reads it, hopefully. And so that's her job. That's what she does. And that's her expertise. And so if she tears it apart, that just means that she's going to take what we did and make it that much better. So I had to learn to let go.
Yes.
It's kind of hard sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I love both. I love your side point and then also this point as well, because your side point goes back to our conversation we just had on Friday. And what Reg and I started was, let's write a book. And that's all it was. And as we're seeing how some of the different feedback that we're getting from people and how we're growing continue, like even though the book is done and out of our hands, so to speak, we're still working on a lot of different things. And so our last conversation on Friday, it was funny because we did talk about the business side of it and other things that we didn't even think about because we were just, our first goal was just the book. That's all we were thinking about.
Yeah.
And now the vision has become much larger. I want to say a little bit larger, but much larger, but it's exciting. And the strategic mind that Reg has, said, okay, well, if we're going to go this way, we're going to have to get this, and this in place. And for me, Reg talked about having the openness of receiving that. I was so excited that I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. Okay, I'll take that task and we'll get it done. And my personality is jump forward, leap forward, like just even if you're not ready, just do it. Just like go, And so as I was kind of getting some of the tasks done, I like to get my tasks done as soon as possible. So that way I don't have to remember it. And as I go along in the week, as Reg probably knows, no wonder she's texting me 15 times after our phone call because she's really trying to get her tasks done. But it was one of those things where I was thinking, okay, and then I've got this done. So then we can get this, and this done. And Reg is like, well, wait a minute. We have to get that one thing done. And then we can get the rest. I'm like, oh, right. That's right. So my energy just goes 1,000,000% when I get excited about something and passionate about something. Yeah. And, Reg is good about reining me in and making sure the strategy is behind it. And so I'm super excited moving forward. We're jumping on lives, when we can before our show starts on June 7th. But at the same time, we want to share our journey and bring people along because it's something that we're still working out weekly when we have our meetings. We're still working out everything and finding new things that we have to tackle and make decisions on. So it's not, even though we started this is just going to be our book that we do together. It's going to be a fun project. It's actually growing into something bigger thanks to all of you. And so I'm really excited to share that. And yes, the birthing process would be my other thing that I agree with. And Elizabeth taught us that as well. She taught us on our very first phone call with her that it's never going to be ready. So just get over it and just pass it off and it'll, she'll take over from there. So it's one of those things that, again, we both have strengths and weaknesses. We both rely on each other as well. Daniel says, I recall that conversation. I recall Reg said, Natalie's done with all our tasks. You should see, I have notes that we have every single time that we have our phone calls. And I literally love when I can check it off and cross it out. I don't cross it out because I like to see what it was. And my notes are all, they're not organized. They're scribbles here and there because we add to things. But yes, when I can make a really big black check mark, it makes me feel so good. So yes, Daniel, I love getting my tasks done.
Yeah. And I love that that is part of your personality because it keeps me in check. It makes me feel like, okay, I've got to make sure I get these things done, because I have a tendency to say, okay, I'll take care of that later because it's going to take time away from something else. And Daniel he's loving this because he's always on me about that. He's like, just make a list and check off the things. And I'm like, I know. So yeah, it's great though, watching the dynamic that we have and getting things done and the progress that we've been able to make. And I think that that's huge for people to really, for takeaways for other people. If you are thinking about doing something and you've prolonged on it, you've dragged your feet on it, and the first thing I would say is really look at why. Why are you not taking action? And a lot of times it goes back to, almost always, so and just a little bit of self-development talk here. It goes into fear, but a lot of times it's deeper than that. And it really goes into things around acceptance and how are people going to feel about me? And which is, it's, you got to get out of your head and stop thinking about yourself so much and think about what you want to do with the thing that you haven't taken action on. Meaning, should you be serving someone? Is it a book? Is it a course? Is it, going out and volunteering? Whatever it is, why haven't you done it? And more than likely, there are other people that are going to benefit from that thing. So get over yourself. Start taking baby actions, because I know it's hard. It's hard to just leap. Natalie and I both have that personality where we'll just leap and we'll figure out along the way what that leaping is going to, what consequences it's going to have. So we're risk takers. Not everyone's a risk taker. Take small baby steps if you have to, but move forward. Don't stay stuck and stagnant. If you just stay stuck where you are, you're not going to be able to get that thing done. It's in your mind. You're like, I want to do it. I want to do it, but you're not moving towards it. You've got to be moving towards it in order to get it done eventually. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, we are glad that you could join us today on Memorial Day. We wanted to just jump on and talk a little bit more about our journey and share, kind of in this interview style, that some of the things that we've learned along the way to help people who are thinking about, starting to write a book or just starting the accountability process of maybe even getting together with someone. And that's what we're going to be pushing forward when we jump on. But we're so glad that you joined us. If you catch this on the replay, again, like we said, if you've got questions for us, put it in the comments so that we can come back and attack those and answer that for you, because we want this to be not just about us, but to bring others along and to be able to have them enjoy this process as well of what we went.
Yes. All right. Oh, this was really cool.
Yay! All right. Yeah. So we will be back. Well, we might just pop up again. We're going to do these pop-up lives every so often until our show starts again on June 7th, 3:00 p.m. So it's going to be on Sundays, 3:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 4:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We have a guest that we're going to be releasing very soon, so that what when our first show goes out on June 7th, that she's going to help us kick off our show. So thank you guys again so much for being here and for joining us on this holiday. Please remember and honor all of our servicemen and women who have fought for our country and who have also sacrificed for our country. So on this Memorial Day, we just want to make sure that you remember that as well.
And stay safe, whatever you're doing today. Have fun, enjoy yourself, and stay safe.
Awesome. All right. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.